Insights by OutsightX, the one-stop shop podcast for everything about the first IPM batch at DoMS Nalsar. Today, I have one of my dearest friends with me, Edwin Raj Joseph, who has been one of the interns at MILMA, and you've worked at the Wayanad location in Kerala for one of your NGOs. To give you a little brief about Edwin right now, one, he's an amazing intraday trader. He has turned, over the last 2 years, he turned a sample amount of 1.4 thousand to about around a 40K portfolio right now. Number two, he's been working as a freelance content writer as well. So you've been working on, what's the companies that you're working around with?
So I work with Naruto, so that's our online marketing space. And then I also work with MDS Online, it's a company based in Mumbai.
Definitely. Apart from that, he has also been working with us in one of our premier entrepreneurship events called Taraki, where we had interacted with a lot of industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and a lot of specialists that could do something in the environment that we have been growing up. So to start off, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So we're going to be talking about your experiences about, let's say, MILMA completely, or let's say your complete experiences about the internship, let's say. Okay, so if you wanted to introduce MILMA as an organization to the outside world, which had no idea what the organization was about, how would you put it?
Okay, so MILMA essentially is the biggest cooperative society for dairy farmers in Kerala. So that means that out of the entire revenue that the team generates, 85% of it goes back to the community.
Right.
So it's essentially the best results giving community in the entire nation because you are giving back 85%, right? That's a huge number.
Right.
And then secondly, like in Kerala, if you are a Keralite, you hear milk and the second thing you hear in your mind is MILMA. That's how big the brand is. That's how big the association you make with the brand. And that's how good their stuff is. And so just to give you an insight on how this company works, MILMA at the very top has a apex body. And this body decides how the entire milk production, consumption and procurement happens in the entire district, in the entire state, sorry. And then this body splits the state into 3 sectors. Right. So we worked in the northernmost sector called the Malabar sector.
Right.
So Malabar sector produces the maximum output. Right. So in terms of milk. So that's where we worked, and then under each of these sectors you have your own subdivisions where farmers do their work.
Before we got allocated to NGOs, we had filled out a form, ranking the best NGOs that we thought we should associate with or like intern with if we had an experience with that. What was your thought process behind, choosing MILMA as one of your top options?
Yeah, so like essentially I wanted to associate myself with this brand.
Right.
MILMA obviously is like the biggest brand in Kerala and you want that in your resume, right? And this is a company that you, like, if you work with this company, you learn stuff. And that's what you want. You want to grow in your life, right? So the second thing was this company, even during the COVID phase, they were able to make profits. So that shows that this company knows how to grow, how to adapt during the difficult times. And that was a huge motivation. Then the third reason was a selfish reason because I know Malayalam better and I know the culture better. So, it was just an easy decision to make there,
So like the whole part of, being a Keralite in itself made you feel like,
exactly.
I'd be on my home ground and
exactly, I have this home ground advantage, right?
Yeah. Although, even in the home ground advantage, I feel the whole setting that you went into, the rural setting that you end up going from the campus in itself, which is quite, a great place to be, into a setting that is culturally different. The people there, the food there, the cuisines in itself, the type of work you're going to do, the types of places you're going to stay at, and the types of places you're going to work with are going to be inherently different than the life we've had over the 18 years that we've had up till now. So what was your initial experience like when you landed at, the headquarters of MILMA in your region? What was your first reaction like there?
So the first reaction was that, will I get any free stuff from this company? So I'm working for 45 days, right? So, but then looking into the company, it was like a solid company. You knew that there were students coming in here, so they knew what they were doing into. And so you felt high level of comfort while working for this company because they knew what they were doing and you just had to trust the process. So the first 2 days they gave us a class or that idea on how to work. And then after that, we went into our own respective districts. And then in these districts, we had our own NGOs, people to report to. And then all of them were so sweet, right? So I'm like an 18, 19-year-old. And then they used to call me Mone, which means son.
Right.
And the food though, so when we were eating, there was this restaurant that we loved to go to because the parota there was amazing. And the guy and I got really close, and towards the end he used to call me baby because we were really tight with each other and we used to get 10% discount on whatever we ordered. So great place,
Yeah, got a good deal.
Yeah, good deal.
Alright. All right. So moving into, let's say, your whole portion of figuring out, you've gotten your initial location, you've come into the headquarters, you've met your team. You worked with a couple of people, I think 7 people if I'm not wrong, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So 2 different locations, 7 people, getting classes done. You've met your reporting officers up till now.
Yeah.
What was your first initial reaction of the reporting officers that came in? Because they would have been, high-ranking officials from the, organization in itself. What was your reaction with that?
Okay, so the most important guy that took care of the entire function, I was in touch with him before going there because we needed some clarity on how to function.
Yeah.
Because there was like a big team going in there and I needed to know how things would be. So even from the phone calls, I knew that this was a very nice, sweet guy. And then going in there, you see a nice, sweet man and he's like treating us as your own kids. So it was like a very nice experience. And then everybody except for like one officer, the reporting, like the main person, who he was like the guy you were scared of because he was the reason why you are motivated to do the work. And then everybody else treated you like their own kids. So it was like beautiful.
Right. So getting into the very integrated job profiles that you ended up doing, what work did you do over the total 45 period day that you felt like was like the essence of your job?
Yeah, okay. So we were asked to do a technical work which spanned around 45 days.
Right.
So the study was to find out what are the factors that affect SNF of crossbred animals in Malabar region. So SNF is, if you take a liter of milk, there's like 85% of it is water.
Yeah.
And then the rest there's like 4% of it that's fat. And then the rest lactose, vitamins, minerals, all of these components add up to SNF. So when you're giving milk, especially in the large quantities, there's this government rule that it has to be 8.4%. So that if your milk is under that quality, the government doesn't allow you to sell this thing.
Right, so it's like a regulatory portion.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So in Kerala, because of our humidity, because of the grazing land that we have, it's difficult to get cow's milk that's 8.4%. So we have farmers who do that because of the way they take care of their animals. But then we also have farmers who don't do that. So we were asked to do a study through which we could figure out the factors that really affected this and how we could improve the quality of this thing.
Right.
So by the end of the study, we were able to come up with a lot of practical solutions which we are really happy and proud of.
Right.
Because the solutions, as soon as they start implementing it, their turnover is going to increase and then each farmer will have at least 2 to 4 rupees increase in their per liter income. So you're like happy, so you have given something back to the society too, right?
Right. So you've been working in the very grassroots of figuring things out, but at the same time you're also happening to work in a field that can not only help out the farmers in themselves but also MILMA and large as an organization. Alright, so getting into the second segment of the podcast, we want to talk to you a little bit about the work setting that you've worked in, right? Now you've told us that you have worked at the ground level, but you've also figured out a way that can help not only the ground level farmers but also MILMA as an organization. In this same portfolio, you're also enhancing the quality of milk that comes out. So India's production in Kerala right now, that MILMA is largely accountable for, you've helped them gain a better perspective on how to enhance their output or their yield. Right? Now you've told us that there are high-ranking officials that have you were kind of scared of, you don't want to talk to. Right? Your reporting officers were extremely sweet, gave you a 3-day, 2-day orientation, then sent you to different locations. Now, when you go to work, you want to have your field visits, you can have your office spaces that you want to work at, and you can have your presentations. Why don't you walk us through what your initial days were like at MILMA?
Yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned, there were like 2 teams, right?
Yeah.
So I'll first talk about how the Wayanad team functioned and then I'll give a glimpse on how the Calicut team functioned.
Sure.
So in Wayanad, we had 3 societies that were operational during the daytime. So we didn't have a lot of difficulties. They knew what to do. So we used to go there, collect the data of the farmers that we required. We used to call them up, know that where they are and if they are comfortable with us going in there and doing the study.
Right.
And after that, we brought in 2 scooters from my home because it was like 1.5 hours back from there. So it was like scooters helped us with the data collection stuff.
Right.
And then we used to go to houses, we took the information, and after that, after the 10 days, we looked into the analysis part.
Right.
And then after analysis, we came into the conclusions, and that's how we worked. So, but it was completely different from the Calicut team because they did not have a daytime functioning society there. So they had to go and do their visits during the later half of the day because most of the farmers were also working professionals. So I mean, if you think about it, it's a lot of fun because for them it's like after 8 o'clock you're going to the houses and you're like, "Sir, cow, steady." We didn't have that kind of problems because we had to do that in the morning shift. So it was like a lot of fun.
So like your initial days have been, data collection, figuring out at the ground level how things work, then putting it in a format that makes sense in a longer term perspective, and then giving them the solutions that you did. So why don't you walk us through a couple of solutions that you ended up giving to MILMA, if you're allowed to do that?
I don't know if I can give out all the solutions.
Yeah,
but
like
sure
an
I'll give
overall
like,
glimpse.
Yeah, sure. So one major thing is the feed. So the thing is, when you're feeding your cows, there's like a 60% roughages and 40% concentrates ratio that you're supposed to maintain.
Yeah.
So that means like in the roughages, you're supposed to give green feed, hay and stuff, and then in concentrates, you're supposed to give kal, theta and different kind of feeds, so that the animal works and has like enough nutrients in it to produce high quality milk.
Right.
So what you see in general is that farmers fail to give enough concentrates, because concentrates cost money. Even with subsidies, it costs a little bit of money. So farmers given a lot of green feed, and because of this, the quality of milk is not as best as it could be. So one practical solution was to give in more subsidies and sensitize the farmers that they are not giving enough concentrates. So like a small change in the amount of concentrates that you give could essentially make a huge difference, like a huge climb in the SNF quality. So that was one solution that we could come up with, one major factor that we noticed.
So like awareness
and proper subsidies, so that farmers get this thing at cheaper prices and they can afford to give this to their animals.
Brilliant. Okay. So we're gonna get into the next segment, which is essentially the interactive portion that we planned out.
Yeah.
So a little, sort of a rapid fire portion where answer in a phrase, answer in a word, up to you.
Yeah, sure.
So the first question that we want to shoot is, what comes to mind when you hear the word MILMA?
It's cows.
Sure. Okay, that was quite good an answer. So second one would be, let's say you had to describe your complete experience at an NGO, the 45 day span in one word. Would that be?
It's entertaining.
Entertaining,
Yeah.
sure. All right, going a little bit off topic, but if you wanted to talk about the relationships you've had with the people there in a phrase, what do you say?
Fun, because like besides my teammates, the community was also really out there for us. Like when we wanted to find people's houses and go there to do the study, they were ready to give us lift so that we could reach there easier. Discounts in the fair. So it was like a beautiful experience.
And I'm sure the person who called you baby helped.
I mean, free food.
Right. And coming to the part where I think our viewers be very excited to listen to.
Yeah.
Any fun experiences that you've had, something different than work, that was like a cultural aspect, because you lived there for 45 days. There must have been instances where you felt like this is something extremely hilarious that happened that I wanted to share on the podcast.
So during the field visits, you don't get to eat at all the correct times, right? So one day, by the time we were done with our field visits and we were going out, the shops were closed. But then nearby there was this church festival that was going in.
Right.
So I pulled up the entire team. We went into the festival and we had a big feast. And then these families used to come to us, talk to us, because we are not from there, right? And then we are like, Ammachi, ivadathe pillere enniya, vacation vanneya. We were like lying to them, pakka. We came for vacations. We are from this family. We're just eating the food and going. It's like a fun experience. You just work with what you get.
Sure, I mean at the very end you had a lot of fun, right? You had like your own 3D experience if science ki taraf se aaye hain. All right. So going to the the final portions of the podcast recording in itself, you have spent a long time in this situation. Yep. You have dived deep into an organization and into a culture that is inherently different from what we have lived with up till now. Yeah. And even being the home state, I feel like you have experienced a new place in itself that you can now call your home.
Yeah.
So all in all, take the complete bird's eye view of the situation. What are the key takeaways you would take from your NGO experiences up till now?
Okay, so the first thing obviously is that when you see an opportunity, just don't let it go down because you don't feel like you're up to it at the moment. Because when we were given this task at the beginning, we knew nothing about it. Right. But then we were working towards it, and throughout the entire 45 days, we grew in a manner that we could give out the best report possible. Because even the managing director was shocked with the results that we were able to produce. They weren't expecting this. So this task actually gave us this confidence to take up opportunities that might felt like it was out of our comfort zone or something.
Right.
Okay, and the second thing is, when you have a team, just work out the things between themselves so that you figure out who's good at what. So I had a beautiful team with me. So like I was more good at setting up goals and doing the analysis kind of like not interpreting kind of stuffs.
Right.
And then I had teammates who were so good at processing information. It was mind blowing. Like Malayalam is considered to be one of the toughest languages out there, and one of my teammates picked it up with like 3-4 days span.
Oh.
It was shocking to see that. Like the way she even started speaking it was absolutely mind blowing. And then we also had a person who was like really good at creative work, writing, presenting the things.
Right.
So like working with a beautiful team. So figuring out who's strong at what and listening, working together. So that was this thing. The third thing is always have fun, right? Because you're going to a place where you don't know anything, but then you have fun so that you create good memories.
Right.
I used to try to take them to weekend spaces so that we could chill and
show them around.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it was a district that I wanted them to see, so I tried taking them to.
So in this case, you, as much as I can hear from and take away from this conversation, you have had experiences where you've expanded on your knowledge.
Yeah.
You have found people that you didn't know that well before because it was an intimate setting with everybody.
True.
So the 7 people strong group came back stronger after the 45 day
Of
period.
course, no
Right.
doubts, zero doubts.
And you ended up, showing MILMA and herself what students of DoMS can do.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. All right. So coming into the final portions I really want to talk about. If there was something you would want to culminate your final experience with, what was your last day like at MILMA? Because now that you've spent time, you've interacted with everybody. Now you've had the church setting also where you went and you had a feast, you showed people around. You've intricately connected to this grassroots level. Because talking to a set of people every day, interacting with them every day forms a social bond with them.
Yeah.
So I can assume like the last day it was very, very emotional for us because we went and talked to everybody that was a stakeholder and then came back. What was your experience like at the last day?
Yeah, so the very last day we were asked to do a presentation on the study that we were conducting.
Right.
And then throughout the study there were like zero emotions on their faces. So we were like freaking out. Are we doing this right? I mean, am I saying the right stuff? But then by the end, when we were done with the presentation, they gave us a huge round of applause and then they were like praising us for the work that we did. So, at that moment we felt truly happy because it was like a actual 45 days of worth of work. We had to do a lot of analysis, study, research to do this thing. And then when they recognized our work, we felt truly happy.
Alright, so this would wrap up yet another incredible session from yet another DOM student. Edwin, it was lovely having you here. We would lovely to have you again on the second season as well.
Same.
And in this whole scenario, you have now showed us what DOM students can do in this case as well. You went to a new location, conquered everything, showed a organization how to expand on its profits and on its revenues, create better social change, figure out a way to help the production go better, the overall perception of the organization go better. And in this whole journey, make friends, make relationships, and also leave a social impact on the on the face of the place that you went as well, which is the whole idea behind this NGO internships as well. Alright, that would culminate this episode. We're gonna have yet another speaker, yet another DOM student with yet another NGO coming up pretty soon. Stay tuned for the same for Insights by OutsightX.